Welcome to British Strength Radio, episode number 23, with Naomi Sheppard and Tom Sheppard. Naomi and Tom, you've both been coaching today, right?
Yes, we have, all day.
Ultraflex Rotherham.
That's it.
And how many people did you have in this comp? Or over today and tomorrow, how many people do you have?
15 in total.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Hence why I have no voice.
And in terms of as a proportion of your total clients, how many do you have in total? Do you coach together? Is it like your business together?
Well, we're both PTs at a commercial gym, but then from that we've kind of branched out our own powerlifting team. That really has just taken an interest because it's what we do.
Yeah, so there's kind of two sides to our job, really. A lot of people we help for everyday life.
Yeah.
And then there's the more powerlifting specific side.
Right,
so
okay.
So it's probably about a third.
So you have like 45 powerlifting clients if you
Oh,
have
no,
to
so
guess.
I mean, we've probably got 45 to 50 clients.
Okay.
And then 15 of those are competing this weekend, but they're not all powerlifters, so that makes sense.
Okay, so some of them are just doing it for...
Average Joes, if you like.
Okay, but...
Want to get fitter and stronger and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, to give a little bit of a test to their lifting, to give a bit of a competitive element, just so you're taking them to a comp for a bit of fun, right? To do a bit of comp.
Yeah, and I think it's also just that lifting weights is a bit more in vogue at the moment, so people are coming around to it a bit more.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot more popular. It's a good way of pushing yourself, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it's a sport that you can do where you don't have to be professional at it.
No, very true.
So, it's something you can do as a hobby, really.
Yeah.
And just as a bit of a one-off, bit of a day out, I've seen like a lot of people do it that way who are just like barely serious in training.
We do have quite a few serious lifters as well.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we've got multiple people that have been competing with us for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
So on and so forth.
So
do you have anyone that like we might know?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably not off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
And where are most of these people based? So where are you two based now?
So we're in Leamington Spa.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Midlands.
Yeah.
Nice. To be fair, it is pretty nice, Leamington Spa.
Yeah, we do really like it.
What you said Warwick as well, didn't you? You mentioned Warwick as well. I remember when the Savage Pro was there.
Yeah.
It was snowing. It was so idyllic. The place I was staying at was lovely. It was an Airbnb, but it was just in this nice village. And I just have a good memory of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of quaint little villages around there. Really nice.
Like if I wouldn't get so homesick, that was one of the places I'd consider relocating.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, back to you. So, Naomi, for people who don't know you, maybe they're in different feds or whatever, what have your PBs been? What have your achievements been, etc., etc.?
So for most of, I say my powerlifting career, not that it's really career, but for the most of the time I've been powerlifting, it's been raw, without sleeves or wraps. But the last time I competed like that was in November 2018, and at that competition I was 62 kilos and I squatted 200 kilos bare knee, so that was quite a big achievement at the time. It was a world record. I also benched 102.5 and I deadlifted 185.
Was that the WPC Worlds in America?
Yeah, it was in Orlando,
it was in
Florida.
Yeah.
Good destination.
Yep.
And then since then I've kind of gotten a little bit more into wraps. Like I only did one competition last year, and that was the Irish Pro. So I kind of I decided I wasn't going to wear wraps, and I was going to go and I'd put on some sleeves, but then changed my mind probably 2 months before it and said, okay, I'm going to try wraps because there's no reason to hold myself back. Everyone else is going to be doing it. All the big competitions are using them. It was always something I said I definitely wasn't going to do, but I just decided I was going to try it and see how it felt, and I got on with them okay. And at that competition I squatted 220, I benched 105, and I deadlifted 182.5, but that got failed. It was the worst deadlift ever. So I think I finished on 177, and I was like 63 kilos at that competition. So those are probably my best lifts.
4 weeks after not being able to walk after a back injury. So
unfortunately,
context is important.
Tell us about the injury.
So I think it's obviously like I've had some imbalances. We're always working on them. I had a few around my hip, and I just kept working through them. And then I did one deadlift session, particularly tired, didn't pay enough attention, did something heavy, made a mistake. And I basically think that I had some muscle tearing in my lower back. It wasn't huge, it was minor and a pretty deep tissue. But yeah, the next day I couldn't walk. I thought I'd broken my back.
Oh my God.
Had to be carried to A&E by Tom. They basically x-rayed it, said that it was fine. I tried to push to get an MRI because I thought maybe I'd done something to a disc, but they said it was fine. At that point then I could stand, but I could barely move. I was in a lot of pain. So it took me about a week just to get back to normal activity. And I just had a lot of like tightness in all the muscles from my, like the middle of my back down to my knees. It was just, everything had just locked up. So there's like a protective mechanism, which is quite normal. So yeah, rather than actually finishing the last month of my prep for the Irish Pro, I just basically rehabbed myself. And then a couple of weeks out, I hadn't even, I squatted the bar. It was a lot of pain. And over that week, I worked my way up to my opener. So like 40 kilos the next day, 100 kilos the day after, 150 the day after that. And then that weekend, I tested my opener. I could do it. It was painful, but I could do it. And the pain was coming from muscle tightness at the bottom of the squat. So I knew it wasn't, something that was going to cause more damage. Or, I kind of just thought I'd risk it. And I'd spent all year prepping for it. So there was no way that I wasn't going. And I think, in a way, the determination of actually just doing it made me get better quicker.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of wallowing in it and just being sore from it.
Well, yeah, you don't have a choice then, do you? You have to get better.
That was a bit of a kind of setback last year, but I still did really well. And I still hit numbers that I was really happy with. But I know I could have done more. I suppose people always say that, right? There's always something that can hold you back. But like I'd spent all year prepping for that, and I knew
you deadlifted 190 the week before you did it, air, didn't you? So
I tested all of my maxes like 5 weeks out in like just nothing that was like a proper max. It was like conservative maxes. I'd squatted 220, I benched 110, and I deadlifted 190. So that was like my pre-peak position. So I basically just didn't peak, and deadlift was the one that took the biggest hit from my injury. But it's getting back to it now. It's taken a few months, but I've kind of really taken it back to basics and worked on the things that led to that in the first place, so that it won't happen again.
Were you quite? You mentioned that you couldn't walk. Were you quite scared when it happened?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like Tom was driving me to the hospital. I was laying in the back of the car. So obviously I could only lie straight. I couldn't lie in I couldn't sit up or anything. It was just so painful. And I remember lying in the back being like, was it worth it? Thinking I might not ever walk again. I honestly thought I'd broken my back.
Well, I mean, like
I've never experienced pain like that. Yeah. And obviously, we put ourselves through a lot of pain.
Hold her out of bed and things like that. Yeah. Like she couldn't stand unassisted on the first day.
I mean, I've not even really thought about that day since, because it's all just been, I've just been thinking up from there. Thinking back to that, it's actually quite scary. But I think it taught me that one day that I wasn't very careful in the gym, that it can only take a second to not know, not focus on what you're doing, that something can go wrong. But I've always been very specific about my technique and working on that. Mm-hmm. Obviously we push to do 1 rep maxes and it starts to go when it gets heavier, but that's one thing I kind of pride myself on, that I've always really been very technical in my lifts. So
I can't ever remember seeing a round back deadlift from you, to be honest. So
maybe at the Irish Pro September.
I remember you telling me that that lift got.
Oh yeah,
you told me a minute ago, but I remember. Yeah. Originally, but I think you were just going for it, weren't you? I think you were just.
Oh yeah, it was for the win at that point.
Well, that lift, if I'd got that lift, I would have won. So obviously, and everyone could kind of understand. You got to get that lift. Yeah. You're gonna win.
You do anything to get it.
So I literally did it. Yeah. But it's fine. It was. I failed on a technicality. Mm-hmm. Rules are rules. It's fine. I don't regret anything about that competition. I don't regret going. I came in second. I'm happy with my placing. I learned a lot from that competition. Probably the hardest one I've ever done.
And you learned to grind out a deadlift. which
and
you
I
don't
learned
do
to finally,
ever.
yeah, because I usually give up a lot
Finally.
earlier than that. So, yeah. So I learned a lot from it. So I'm actually really appreciative that I didn't win. I actually am happy that I came second because it's given me a bigger drive now. And I've, the opportunity I've been given since doing the Irish Pro and all the invitations I've had to competitions, it's opened a lot of doors, and I'm glad I didn't win.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I feel that's really commendable, and I'm not just like kissing ass because I'm here and you're the guest on the podcast and whatnot. The things I like about it is the whole thing of you're not giving up. You've not just had an injury a few weeks out, and a few weeks out is the worst time to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got time to get better, but will you be better? Probably not at that stage, unless it's a very, very, very minor tweak and you rest it for a few days and you get back on the exact same training cycle you were on. But you've literally found any possible way that you could just to be ready for that competition, given the injury.
Oh, I was
and
definitely
you've never had
going.
a defeatist mindset. And it's also kind of shows just to anyone who has any ounce of common sense that you do have an athlete's mind of you're determined, you will not give up and you will get the job done no matter what. So I think it is really, really commendable that you actually did that, because a lot of people, even the best, wouldn't do that. They would be out. They would just drop out. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think a big part of that is that the amount of work that had to be put in to get her ready for that comp is what makes it probably so meaningful to you.
But I mean, also the opportunity. I'd never been to a big competition like that ever, and just being invited to go, well, I wouldn't want to miss out on that opportunity. Even if I went and didn't have the best day, just being there, being with all those amazing lifters, being in that atmosphere, just getting to be part of that, I didn't want to miss out.
It was nice, wasn't it? The Irish Pro.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was a great
comp
for me.
Yeah, it was such a good competition. It was like, I suppose people would think you'd look back on that and think, well, you almost won. I'd probably look at it negatively, but actually obviously I was upset. Like, I finished that deadlift thinking I'd won. So that was a shock. I put it down, realized I got reds, and I was just like, I just walked out the back and was like, I need a moment. But then I came back in, I spoke to the girl that won. I said, well done. It was a good fight. It's good to have competition. And since then, I've just kind of looked at it with the positive, it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, you went from
it.
not being able to stand to hitting a PB total in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, I was happy to be there.
When you look back in future, you can think, well, what's this compared to that setback, realistically?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy that I hit some good numbers.
Yeah. This is probably, I'm going to kick myself when I realise I already knew this, but who won? Who was the girl who won the Raw?
Lena
Lena O'Sullivan. Yeah.
Irish?
Yeah, she is. But
I've heard her name. I've heard her
She's
name.
originally from Russia.
Coached by Shiko.
Yeah. So he came over to coach her.
And that's why I did a seminar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so he was there.
I don't know whether I did know of her, actually. Anyway.
Yeah, she's a really good lifter. And, I learned a lot from her because she was very focused. It was very different side of powerlifting that I'd never... I always just go into competitions thinking, this is what I know I can lift, this is what I'm going to do, which I think's worked for me for the last several years. But I saw a different side to it in that competition, in that it was a bit more, this is what you need to do to win. It is a competition at the end of the day, and I just never really
treated it like that.
I think, is it maybe because you almost didn't have to? Because I know that someone of your standard in ABPU, BPU, WPC, a lot of the time you're probably just going to win. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's
probably
a fair
kind
comment,
of a given. I mean, you can't say that every international is the same, but just from my experience going to an international last year, I was so far behind my best. I managed to win the overall. I kind of thought that wouldn't happen at one of these pro shows. Pro shows such a step up kind of thing.
It is a big step up. It's completely different. So yeah, I think that in itself is the reason why I was like, I have to still go. Yeah. Because it's a good opportunity, and why would you wouldn't want to waste that, Yeah.
Going back to something else you said about the wraps versus sleeves and bare knees, because we interviewed you. Obviously, I was trying to figure out which issue it was that we interviewed you for. 18, I believe it was 18. So if anyone's watching this and has subscribed or will subscribe at BritishStrengthMagazine.com. I think it's an issue 18.
I think I said in that I wasn't going to wear wraps.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
And
yeah.
that's why when I saw
Yeah,
that you
no, I
pulled
did.
up on it now.
Yeah.
when I saw, I was like, that's amazing. That's great that she's not going to wear wraps.
I know.
I was,
and then I did.
and then I was like, oh, so she, you know, when I saw the
Yeah.
training videos, but really, you'd be daft not to at a competition like that when you've got so much to gain from wearing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, everyone
I
is.
don't even. I'd not learn how. At that point, I'd not learned how to use them. I know I can get more out of them. I'm starting to learn now, and I can see like the advantage of it and how much you can push them. So yeah, I'm definitely going to get more out of them.
And how many revs do you get from a 3 meter rep as like a 60 odd
that's
kilo
a good
woman?
question.
Ooh, are we not using 2.5s at the minute? So
Yeah, I'm using 2.5s now.
So that's for the Kern, isn't it?
For a 2.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
7,
6.
No,
Sometimes 7.
Is that it?
Yeah, not that many.
But that's because I haven't really pushed them yet.
We're not doing them super tight yet.
Right. And what rep are these?
These are
Cerberus.
Cerberus. Can't remember the name of these. Elite, there you go.
Right. Okay.
They're awesome.
Are they the black ones, or are
No,
they the black and red?
The red. Just red.
Ah,
They're
okay.
not the rebound though, because
So
I think people thought I was using rebound, but I'm not using
So
the
it's a
rebound
light
ones.
wrap, isn't it?
I'm a slow squatter, and I don't bounce out the bottom of my squats. So I actually did use the Lilybridge ones for the Irish Pro,
Right.
and they were great. Actually, Elliot Page, one of our good friends, has helped me a lot learning how to use those, and he recommended them to me. I got along with them well, but actually now that I've started using wraps that are a little bit stiffer, they work much better for me because my squat's really slow and controlled. I haven't changed my style at all, which is probably... People are probably going to think that's crazy going from raw to wrap squat, but I've kept my squat pretty much the same and I just added a wrap to it, and I'm basically just learning how to use them that way. But yeah, our experience with wrap squats, like pretty much nothing.
Yeah, very,
So
very little.
I have a lot to learn.
Yeah, I think it's not really that hard to work out.
No.
It's some elastic that you put on your knees.
Yeah, like-
I think people make it very, very complicated.
Yeah.
And make it out like they talk about it like it's a bench shirt or a
Yeah.
squat
Like it's a
shirt.
completely different
Yeah.
lift.
I suppose
yeah.
like you put on some sleeves, you learn to push into them a little bit.
Yeah.
Wraps are just like a little bit of a level up from that. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that obviously they are all different, and you can get little bits out of them, but I think the actual training is more important than
yeah.
trying a million different pairs to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
which one gets you half a kilo.
Yeah, I've
more.
basically kept my training fairly similar. I've just added them to. Now I'm doing it in 2 of my workouts. I was doing it in 1 before. So I do 1 lighter and then 1 heavier with them. And it's, I'm getting used to them, so it's paying off a little bit.
And do you periodise it throughout the year whereby will you still have cycles where you do not have wraps at all? Where
Yeah,
you do
well,
a sleeve cycle in the off season?
I did 8 weeks so I did 8 sessions, 7 sessions. In fact, I started 2 months before, and I didn't do my last 3 wrap sessions. So I did 5 or 6 sessions in wraps before the Irish Pro.
Right.
And then I didn't use them after. And I started using them again about a month ago.
Okay.
So in total, I've probably used wraps
Only like 10 times.
10 times. That's
total.
it.
Yeah. That kind of resonates with what I would assume of your
Yeah,
training
like-
through watching your Instagram. It's like
Mostly.
everything is very periodized, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not heavy until it needs to be.
No. I just don't. Yeah, like we had a conversation about this earlier. I just don't get along with training heavy a lot. I just don't recover from it. Like 1 heavy session a week is enough for me. It takes me several days to recover. So I do a lot more lighter work. And, there's so many ways of pushing up your numbers. It's not always about putting more weight on the bar. You can slow it down. You can add pauses. There's so many different ways of improving your strength. So I always like to do everything that I can to make myself stronger without putting more weight on the bar.
Yeah, that's what interests me a lot about your training. It's so different to anyone else's.
Yeah.
And do you two kind of figure out Naomi's training together, or do you coach yourself, or
No,
Tom, do you
Tom
coach?
does.
I
Tom
write
does
all of
all my
Naomi's
programming.
Right, okay.
He's like the program genius.
Okay.
So I literally just do what I'm told. Like
Most of the time.
I literally do exactly what I'm told. He does my
you do.
training. I follow it as is written.
So, Tom, could you give me an idea behind some of the variations that Naomi uses? So I've seen like almost triple paused front squats before.
Yeah.
Recently I've seen weight releases.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of multiple pauses in there, lots of slow eccentrics. I saw slow eccentrics definitely a few months ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah, love slow eccentrics.
I think the bench is a lot more just bench, right?
No, it follows the same pattern.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Right.
so the first thing with Naomi is that, again, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but I find that most lifters tend to be either quite muscle dominant or nervous system dominant. So Naomi's very muscle dominant. So she responds well to rep ranges and loads where she can feel muscles contracting that aren't kind of lifting on the edge, if you like, in terms of very heavy loads. So she can push a set that is 90% of her 1 rep max for like 10 or 11,
Right.
which is just insane. So if you go back on her Instagram, you'll see her squat like 180 raw for 11, which is about,
Jesus.
yeah.
I pick up the bar sometimes now and think, how on
So
earth
that's
did I
a
do
lot of the
that?
time how you can see if someone's really muscle dominant or neural dominant is how many reps they can do at certain percentages.
Yeah.
So she can't train on the wire like a lot of people can. So how do you make a training stimulus high enough to progress at her level without making it that difficult to recover from? So you have to make lighter loads more difficult. So that's where all the tempo and the pause work comes in. So her training programs, along with a lot of the other powerlifters I coach, have 3 main days where they focus on different types of muscle contractions. And again, I might sound clever saying this, but really I've gotten this system from my coach, Christian Thibodeau, and then adapted it to my lifters. So all credit due to him there in that respect.
So
And
Christian Thibodeau is a guy who was under Poliquin.
yes,
Right?
Yeah.
Same guy.
correct, yes. So I've been lucky enough to be coached by him for a couple of years now.
Is he a powerlifting coach or is he?
He's not. No,
strength
he's
coach?
He's coached everything basically to a degree, but that's why
He's
I like
a
him.
strength coach.
Right.
So at the
Very
moment, Naomi has a day that's focused on eccentric loading, a day that's focused on isometric loading, so pauses and positional strength, and then a concentric loading day, which is a more traditional heavy lifting day. And all of those days are periodized in that they will get progressively heavier as the months and the weeks go on. So an eccentric day in your off season might be 8-second lowering phases on a Zercher or a front squat, something that's going to hit a weakness and that's going to be relatively lower in load. And then, leading up to a peak for a comp, that could be something like a slow eccentric done with a weight releaser on a back squat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you'd intensify that. And then you could do a similar thing, again, closer to a comp. You could be doing weight releases with pauses to overload certain positions in the lift. But again, further out from in the off season, that could look like triple pause front squats,
Right.
and all that kind of thing that you've seen before. So that's the idea behind it. It's just, how do you make it difficult without making it too taxing? And from an injury prevention point of view, I find that focusing a lot on eccentric loading and positional strength tends to carry over very well. I mean, our lifters don't really get injured, do they?
No.
Doesn't really happen. You just
I mean,
get a bit of tightness
like
and that
I've
kind
been
of thing. But
I've been lifting for 10 years now. 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been powerlifting for 7. Like competing. I
Yeah.
think my first proper competition that actually counted for something was one of the first
BPU
ones.
competitions, yeah.
So when they
Right.
started, I was at one of their first competitions that they ran. So it was like in a really tiny back room of a gym.
What year was that?
In
So
2012.
7 years ago.
No, it was later than that
Was
because
it?
they started in like 2013. I don't even remember.
Is that a strength asylum in Stoke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'd done like a couple of local ones, like more fun ones before that. But that entire time, other than that one injury I had before the Irish Pro, I've never been injured.
That's impressive, to be fair, to say that the weights that you're handling.
Yeah,
now.
but we've like been very smart about how I train. I'm really good at listening to my body and backing off when I need to, and I just do exactly what I'm told. I think having someone else tell you what to do and kind of watch over what you do makes a massive difference, because if I had free reign, I probably would have got injured a lot more, and I'd be heavy lifting a lot more because I love it. And I think
if it is someone like you, Tom, who does prioritize maybe a bit more volume work, a bit more slow eccentric stuff like that, then yeah, it is. I mean, you could equally have someone reigning over you who telling you to do the opposite. But no, I found the same. Recently, I started with a coach, and he's the type of guy who does not hold you back, but like it's just volume is very light stuff, but set after set after set after set after set. You're not going close to like an RPE10 at all, but it's just repeated. Like 21 working sets, 24 working sets, that type of stuff.
Whoa, intense.
But I think people forget that the more elite you get, the more draining relative sets are. So, I mean, her doing 5x5 on a wrap squat now is going to be a lot more draining than when her max was 120.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to remember is as you get better, you still have the same nervous system, still have the same digestive system, lymphatic system, etc. Yes, they get a bit more resilient, but eventually that's what's going to be what ends up holding you back. So you have to get smarter with what you do then, in my opinion. So
I think a lot of people might be watching or listening to this and saying, this guy's pretty smart, so let's go on to backgrounds. What's your background in terms of educationally? There's got to be some type of science. It has to be.
Yeah, but it's not even closely related. So no, I did marine biology at St Andrews Uni for my degree, because I was a scuba instructor in my gap year and fell in love with that. But then all of it's been self-taught outside of that.
Okay.
Realistically, I mean, I did some modules in uni on sports science and physiology and anatomy, so I got a pretty well-grounded knowledge in anatomy and all that kind of thing from that. But then from that, it's mainly been self-study and self-teaching.
Well, I mean, the information is out there to learn if you want to, like whether you have a degree in it or not. I think that's
I think doing
changed, haven't they? Like we have the internet now. You have access to so much. Like 20 years ago, that's like you had to do a degree to learn something. You had to go and find other people to learn from and learn from them in person. Whereas now you could pretty much find out anything you want.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Absolutely.
You just got to know where to look.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
And you've got to know how to sift through. I think that's where the science degree the good and bad. Like we both have science degrees, and I think we're very good at being able to know what is reputable and what isn't. Like you can look at a paper and be like, you can analyze it, look through it quickly. Like we spent years doing that. So I think that's probably what makes the difference, I suppose.
I mean, that's probably the biggest skill that degree gave me when it comes to being a better coach, is just how to be analytical and how to get a hunch for what research is good and what is not.
Yeah.
So how to look deeper and see that, their sample size is like 5 people, or that their sample size or their population is no good compared to what you're looking for in terms of metrics. And just, little things like that help you cut through all the shit, basically. Excuse the French, but that's out there.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course you're allowed to swear, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You're allowed to say whatever you want.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's a problem, isn't it? Because you can cherry pick studies. If you want to, you could cherry pick and just...
For sure.
You could say whatever. You could make true whatever you wanted to say.
Yeah, trust me. You see that when you do your own research in your degree, you can see that if you really want to, you can make a data set say pretty much anything you want. There are enough different statistical analysis out there that if you say, I need this end goal, you can make it happen. So you have to start being a bit smarter about how you look at things.
Yeah.
Of course. So... let's go over to you, Naomi, talk about backgrounds. Firstly, I just want to touch on the fact that people are not going to believe this, but we went to school down the road from each other.
Literally next door to each other. Except our schools were like rival schools.
Yeah,
and you went to the nice one.
Yeah, the people aren't going to believe that.
And I went to the awful one. In fact, I remember people from your school used to call my school Gabby's. It was called St. Gabriel's. But yes. I went to the bad one down the road.
and you wouldn't think that now, you've got a degree in biochemistry,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
You sound a lot posher than I do, a lot more southern. You went to St Andrews University,
Yeah.
which is how you two met.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
where we
that's
met.
right, yeah.
And I'm this guy with a magazine who does some online coaching. Yeah,
Who's-
I went to this.
Who's interviewing someone from Scabby Gabbies?
How the mighty have
Oh,
fallen.
come on. Your achievements are amazing. You know.
I can be self-deprecating without being kind of being too serious. I just think it's funny how
It is
like,
funny, and it's such a small world. When you
Yeah.
mentioned that, I was like, no way.
But you must have, because you're younger than me, aren't you?
Yeah.
How old are you?
28.
28. So 2 years younger. So
So there was going to be some crossover.
Yeah.
yeah,
He probably threw a stone
went-
at you at some point or something
Yeah,
as you walked to
probably.
school.
You prob-
I wasn't like that.
Although people from Scabby Gabbies were.
Yeah,
we
so
probably
maybe the
threw
other way
stones
around
at
then.
you, but I was never part of that.
There were some good fights, to be
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
Well, there was one good fight that I witnessed. I don't think I should even say the names on here because
Probably
they're
not.
still local people, aren't they,
Yeah.
to me anyway.
They
But,
might get mad at you.
Yeah, but the whole bus interchange everyone would
Oh,
congregate
yeah.
around, and
Yeah. Oh, we were so savage.
yeah. The thing is, though, in Berry Grammar, you would get bloody expelled for watching them, just for watching
Yeah.
them. But in yours, it'd
Yeah, it was
be
just like, oh,
You get
whatever.
expelled for not encouraging them. Why were you not cheering them on? What's wrong with you?
I actually remember, like, the memories are so funny, but I actually remember if someone was fighting, like, the whole school would run to where that fight was taking place
Yeah.
and be like, fight, fight, fight. Yeah, kids are savage. Oh my goodness.
Well, what college did you end up going to then?
So I went to Holy Cross.
Ah,
Yeah,
I went
so-
to there for 6 months.
Did you? What happened
Yeah.
then? Why did
I
you?
don't know. I dropped out because I guess it's a bit personal in a way.
Yeah.
Because I never told people this. Right. I picked some bad options. I picked French and German.
Yeah.
I picked English literature, which was so fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like, I love English, obviously, because I like writing.
Yeah.
I like creative writing, but English literature as an A-level involves zero creative writing.
Oh, no.
It involves trying to go to the gym before you do your college day, but then being knackered, so you multiple times fall asleep in the lesson. That didn't go down very well. Anyway, so I tried to switch that option, and the only thing you could switch to was... was it that option or another one? Anyway, I switched one of my options, and it was just
And
this
it wasn't a good
daft
change.
critical thinking thing that you had to do when you switch an option. If you were
Yeah.
so far into it, it was just crap, honestly. And then in PE, I was already bodybuilding then. I had this bro mindset.
Cool.
And they were trying to make me, for my A-level, play rugby. I mean,
Oh.
I'd played rugby through school, but I didn't. Like, I was like, I don't want to lose my gains. I'm sorry. Like,
Or just get an injury.
yeah, well, yeah,
Actually,
I didn't
yeah.
even think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that. I'd been concussed in rugby before, but yeah, so it's like I wanted to drop two of them, and then the two languages, which I enjoyed both of them, but they were crossing over,
Yeah.
and I was falling behind in those. So I just, honestly, it was half options and half the fact that socially I was so shy. So
Oh,
shy.
I
And
can't imagine
if I
that.
ever got like called out in class
You'd
for
be like-
getting something wrong, which was happening increasingly because of just how it was going badly,
Yeah.
I'd just become so embarrassed and
Yeah.
just shrink away and just be like, just please, like, stop everyone.
Don't put the
looking at me.
spotlight on
Let the world eat me up right now.
And because it's negative, it's like, it's even worse. So yeah, I dropped out after like 6 months. I think I'd been in trouble for forging a signature too. Anyway, that's, yeah, kind of irrelevant. But yeah,
Just let that one trail off.
Let's not talk about that.
so then I ended up going to Berry College. So basically, I ended up,
No way.
I started out Berry Grammar. Oh my God. It was literally like just this downward spiral, wasn't it? I
wouldn't
went
say
to
that.
Berry Grammar, then the nice college, and then BTEC Sport at Berry College. Oh my God. But anyway.
Are you just regretting all your youth's decisions now?
Not really. It all
I
led
mean,
to...
that is like crazy to have to be able to make decisions that are going to be life changing at that age.
Yeah. Because I was talking to someone the other day, GCSEs, how do you know what you like at
I
that
know.
age?
Oh, you don't. You don't know
Also,
anything, do you?
like when we at the same kind of time we were at school, everybody was basically told to go to university. That's your only option.
Yeah,
like
that's
I
it.
remember being
That
at
looks
A-level
good on our numbers,
and then
so let's
like
do that.
struggling to decide what to do, and they were like, it was just it was like expected that everyone went to university, and obviously I think eventually that's kind of backfired because there's so many people with degrees that they're not using. And I sit here with a biochemistry degree, which I don't directly use anymore, but I learned a lot from it. So I don't regret my decisions, you know, like.
So biochemistry in St Andrews, then I guess you both moved simultaneously down to Warwick, right?
Actually,
together?
no, because Tom
is
the year behind me. So I was a year ahead. So obviously Tom was a little bit younger and he took some time out when he was doing his diving. So I finished university and had no idea. I kind of had no idea what I wanted to do at that point, but I'd really enjoyed the research side of my degree. So I ended up coming down to Warwick to work at Warwick Medical School as a researcher. So actually that's what I spent the last several years doing. And it's only a year and a half ago, just over a year and a half ago, that I switched and I stopped doing that full time. So I was like doing a bit of both. I was doing research in the lab all day, doing the powerlifting stuff. And then I was like splitting my time. I wanted to commit to one thing. And actually, like, ultimately it came down to I like being around people and I like being sociable, and research is really not sociable. So I loved the work and I could walk back into that at any point and I enjoy it. It's a good challenge. You have to be very positive to do research. 99% of the time it doesn't work and you have to come up with new ideas. But yeah, I don't regret the decision walking away from research full time.
And now
I'm always going to have those skills. And I think, you know, if you're not enjoying something 100%, like, you should always work hard at something, but my heart wasn't in that anymore. So I think when you feel that way, it's time to move on, and it's never too late to change what you do. Like, you can make whatever you,
absolutely.
you know, you can make whatever you want. And if you love it, you're going to put 100% into it. So I'd rather be just doing something that I'm going to put 100% into.
So, and now that thing is, you're a PT at Nofield, right?
Yeah, so I work for Nofield Health. Yeah, we both work there. Tom's actually my boss.
So you're a PT manager?
Yes.
Fitness manager.
Yeah, so he
Anyone who
manages
believes that I'm her boss is an idiot then.
Yeah, I don't think most couples could work together, but we're a good team. And so I kind of, that's like my full-time thing now, and I'm really enjoying it. You know, I've met some amazing people. Yeah. I've helped some awesome people. It's really rewarding.
And I think, especially at Nofield, I think maybe people think that it's, you know, might assume that it's just rep counting. Like, they think, maybe she's gone from research to being a PT and rep. Especially in Nofield, it is you're monitoring people's actual health.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of blood pressure readings and this and that.
There's so many like different angles to our job working with Nofield. Like, you know, obviously we PT, but like Nofield itself runs so many great programs. Like, we help children with cystic fibrosis. Right. That's something that we do while we're there. You know, there's joint pain programs. There's so many different facets to it. It's not just...
I suppose the advantage it gives you as a PT is that you get to work with a really wide demographic.
Yeah, you get to work with so many different people.
Yeah, you're not just working with 9-to-5ers who want to lose weight and get toned necessarily. You're working with people of all age categories, people who've had hip replacements, knee replacements, and coming through the hospital system and
so it's
all that kind of thing. So it does keep you on your toes probably a bit more.
You have to expand your knowledge.
And I think we both need that. We both need to be challenged, and like, we constantly want to improve ourselves and push ourselves. And that, like, we get that from Nofield. Although, like, with powerlifting, obviously we do a lot of our own training there. We train powerlifters there, but it's a commercial gym. People don't like commercial gyms, but there's nothing wrong with them. The kit has not held us back. You know, we don't have.
Do you have power bars and stuff there?
Yeah, like, we've had quite a good big influence over what we have at our specific Nofield. We've got a little bit more than other Nofields.
It is what you make it. I think people think you need far too much.
But you don't. Like,
you just need some squat racks, some half decent bars, and a half decent bench and plates. Let's be honest.
We do occasionally go elsewhere to train, but that's more for the people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And being around other lifters, and kind of having sessions where you just push yourself a bit harder, because people are, you know, like, there's a few people in our area that we train with, like Elliot Page. Like, he's, you know, going to train with people that are like, well, awesome. Like, you're going to learn something from them. You should always be looking to learn, because everyone looks at things in a different way, and just being around stronger people helps. So like, we generally go elsewhere for that rather than the kit specifically. But
Yeah, that's
obviously
fair.
it would be ideal to have a monolift and a competition style bench and a deadlift bar.
But you don't need
But we
them,
don't
you don't
have
need
those
the monolift
things.
all year round.
No,
definitely not.
I think you
No.
benefit sometimes from making your training harder anyway in the competition.
I think I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot from walking out all my heavy squats.
Yeah.
Keeps-
Well, that's just a core exercise in of
Yeah.
itself that
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to put in elsewhere.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Walking with a bar on your back, it's
Yeah.
like, it's one of the best core things you can do, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Specific to a squat as well. So I say all this just because I have a couple of friends who came through Nofield.
Yeah.
One who's fitness manager. I think he does the same job as you, but
Yep.
in Bolton. Yeah, Martin
Oh,
Brown.
cool.
Okay, yeah, I know
you-
Martin Brown. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's funny, actually.
Cool.
So you might end up on a course or something one day together.
Yeah, probably will actually. At some point, we'll be in a meeting together.
Yeah.
I'll drop your name then.
Yeah. I funnily enough, that's how I met him. When it was Virgin,
Yeah.
I was on a course with
Ah.
Virgin,
Yeah.
and then we didn't know each other, but he took it upon himself to make a comment about me. I was like, "Cheers, mate." It was meant
A good one, I
nicely.
hope.
Oh no, he just said. He said very loudly, "Oh, at least I'm still the strongest," because I was a bodybuilder back at the time. I was like, "Oh, thanks. I was just sat here minding my own business."
Like,
Not
great.
anymore.
So, talking about what competition plans you have. You mentioned the Kern.
Yes.
How far are you out from that now?
Just over 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
10 weeks tomorrow.
Yep.
And
It makes me
whereabouts
feel
in America
nervous.
is it held?
It's in San Diego in California.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's great. You get to travel as well.
Any excuse.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you self-fund it, as do all powerlifters, but we always just turn it into a holiday, and we use that as an opportunity to travel, maybe to a place that we hadn't thought we would go before. So yeah, I would just make a holiday of it.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
No,
So-
absolutely.
It's a long way to go.
You're doing the competing side first, and then have a few days,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we've got a few days before and then a couple of weeks after. Yeah.
Cool. And how is training going for that now?
Good so far. Like, it's the build up is slow. I always want to do more, but I constantly have to do less. But it's building up. Like, I've not done anything yet that I'm like, ooh, that was horrible. Or there's no weight that I've gone up to where I've been nervous or thought I might not get that. That will only happen really close to the time where I actually really start pushing it. So right now I'm like pushing it, but comfortably. I suppose that's the best
Yeah,
way to
that's fair.
describe it. Like, I'm trying to do a bit more, but I'm also focusing on how fast everything's moving, how technically good it was. So like, if I do something and it wasn't good enough, the next week I will only do that weight again and make it better. So I have like one session every week at the weekend where I'll push the heavier stuff. But then in the rest of the week, like, I have a bodybuilding day. Tom mentioned all my training days. Like, it's broken down. I'm doing a lot of front
Yeah.
squats at the moment. I've been doing a lot more core work since like my issues of my back last September. That's like a weak link in my chain, which I've been doing a lot of work on. And like, I have acupuncture every week. I have a massage every week. Like, my recovery is probably the thing that's more effort than anything else.
Well,
Like,
it
the
seems
training,
to be what the top
like
level athletes are doing,
the
recovery
training,
side of
the
things.
training is the least amount of effort. Like, I think this is what most people don't realize. It's all the things that come with it that actually make the biggest difference. Training for me is like part
The
of my
fun bit.
day. I love it. It's never a chore. There's never a session where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. Obviously, sometimes you feel tired and you're not feeling as revved up, but I always want to do it and I always look forward to it. It's everything else that comes with it. The nutrition.
Yeah. Just 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is like really dialed in. Like, I'm, and like the recovery, that's been like all the mobility work that I have to do every day. Like, having 2 hot baths every day. Like, I'm very diligent on doing everything properly
What's the
and
reason
giving
for the hot
myself
baths?
the heat. helps my recovery.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I really benefit from heat on my muscles.
So like hot baths.
Hot baths,
Like
yeah.
you would do for a weight cut type thing.
Not that hot.
Okay.
A bit more comfortable than that. But I do one in the morning, one at night, every day, without fail. Mobility work every day. I train 2 to 3 hours every day but one. I have 1 day off in the week.
So you're a 6-day-a-week trainer.
6-day-a-week
Yep.
training, but obviously like a lot, like there is 1 day specifically for like pump bodybuilding work, like pump work, where I'll just do like machine work, cable work, barbell, like dumbbell work. I won't touch a barbell on those days.
Let's go into that just briefly, because I know a lot of people are looking at you, especially a lot of the girls who are looking, thinking, Jesus Christ, I would like a physique like her.
Yeah. Well,
it probably isn't just that day that makes you as jacked as you are.
No.
I think that would be quite naive of people to think. It
that's
probably
just right
facilitates
now.
some
Like,
recovery.
like I wouldn't look at someone that I look up to and say, what are you doing now? I would be like, what did you do for the last 3-4 years? Like, what have you been doing? Like, what you're doing now is helping you now, but how did you get here? What did you do before that?
Yes.
So bodybuilding has always been a massive part of my training. For me, I've always looked at it in, muscle moves weight. So the bigger I am, the more I'm going to move. So it's always been like a massive part of my training, doing lots of high rep work, lots of bodybuilding work. Like, there've been like blocks of my training where I've spent 2 months just focusing on bodybuilding. Obviously there's been barbell work in that, but it's been lighter, focusing on really high rep ranges. So yeah, and like I think one thing for me is that I've never held myself back in terms of weight, because I know people always asking me, what weight category do you compete in?
Someone asked that on the question.
I've competed in like 3 different categories, and it just depends on where I'm at.
What are those categories?
Like where I'm at and...
No, what are they?
Oh, so when I first started competing, it was 67. And then I moved up to the 75s. When I first started, I was so determined to just be bigger that there was actually a period where I just looked really unhealthy.
And how tall are you?
So I'm 5'2", or just under 5'2".
Okay, so that's 75.
Oh yeah, I was
big.
big.
It's a lot of weight.
I was really strong. Like at that point, when I was in that category, I was like squatting 150 to 160. This is several years ago now. I was benching like 85, and I was deadlifting like 150. My deadlift and squat have always been fairly similar. Obviously squat's taken over and now a little bit, especially with wraps. But yeah, like I've always, like at that point I was just like, I want to be stronger, I want to be bigger. Like I just spent so much time trying to get bigger, but I also put on a lot of fat because I didn't like cycle it where I build, cut. And actually, like if you look at it from the terms of like a bodybuilding sort of view, that's what they do. You have to build, cut back down, build again, cut back down. And every time you cut back down, you might be a little bit heavier then because you put more muscle on. So when I've competed, it's just depending on where I've been at in terms of where I'm at in the building process, I suppose. I've found it easier to do less competitions so that I can make my year focused on building and then kind of cutting down closer to that. But I haven't really, like the last couple of years, I haven't really done any massive cuts to compete. I've basically just competed at the sort of weight I've just been at because it's been like lower, like towards the end of a weight category. So like I think the last 2 times I've basically been in the 67s, but I've been right at the bottom end of that.
Right.
So, but I've competed in the 60s a couple of times. Like the last time I competed in the UK, like in Birmingham, was in May 2018, and I was like 59 kilos. Like that year I was like I'd really managed to lean out a lot, and like maintain that for a while. But then obviously you can't maintain that and build strength, right?
Yeah,
so since that point I haven't been back at that weight because I've just been building.
And I think sometimes you mentioned the 75 kilo thing, and the fact that you just were so focused on getting bigger. Do you feel that maybe is something that a lot of women in particular, men too, but lose focus on, and they don't let themselves grow?
Oh, big time. I think because yeah, like I notice it, especially with a lot of new lifters, is they come in and I'm like, don't worry about what weight category you're in. It doesn't matter. Just focus on what you're lifting, trying to build strength, build a bit of muscle. But it's always like, what weight category am I in? I'm going to cut into that one. As a new lifter, you should be using those newbie gains is what we call them, to put on as much muscle as you can, because that is like the best time to do it. So you shouldn't be holding yourself back and going into a low weight category. You should be building, putting on as much muscle as you can, because ultimately that's going to be what moves the weight. So depends what you want to achieve, really.
I think there are a lot of factors that go into it.
Obviously.
Like if you're a normal weight, like you were and are, you're a normal sized person, just a lot more muscular, I think.
But I was tiny when I started lifting. I think before I lifted, I was like 52 kilos at one point. And then I kind of worked my way up towards 60. I was there for a while. And then in like the first 3 years of lifting, I worked from 60 to 75. And I didn't have a lot of periods of time where I actually cut down in that. All it was just like build.
So basically,
and then I spent a year. I took a year out. I didn't compete for an entire year and a half almost, where I literally focused on just getting leaner, but like doing that in a way to maintain strength. So that's why I didn't compete. It took me that amount of time, but I didn't want to compete because I didn't want to have to think about, like, I wanted the pressure of being strong still, but I didn't want to think about weight categories. And it was something that I even thought about, and I can say that now, like I look back and think like I was focused on it, and I know a lot of women do get focused on it, like it means something, but actually it doesn't really matter. No. Like I think like I'm going to cut into the 60s for the Kern. I'm in the 67s, low 67s, but I'll be cutting into the 60s. But I'm doing that now, like slowly leading up to the competition. Mm-hmm. I'll do a little bit of a water cut at the end, probably last kilo or two. But yeah, like this is the first time in a long time where I've actually thought, okay, I'm going to get into a weight category.
Because it's a 24-hour weigh-in, right?
24-hour weigh-in.
We talked about this before.
Yeah, and it's a big competition. Like, I want to be in the best position I can. I'm going to be one of the small fish in that big pond, but this is how you get better.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to go into that and treat myself like one of the best, because, you know, eventually at some point I want to go and actually have the opportunity to be a winner.
Yes.
I want to win. I want to be one of the best. And so I'm going to treat myself like that now, because
that's how you become the best, is treating yourself like that.
So yeah, like it's all about Wilks in those competitions, so obviously it'd be crazy not to.
Yeah, I think it's very different for you to be cutting though compared to a beginner. I think a lot of the time that just comes back to people just being far too short-sighted. Yeah. And they're worried about trying to be great before they're even bad.
Yeah. Do you think societal pressure comes into it as well?
I think totally. I mean, you go on Instagram and you get humbled 1,000 times over by scrolling through your feed for 1 minute, right? And it looks like the entire world's hitting PBs but you. But you don't see the 99.9% of everything else, do you? That's the problem.
No.
Yeah.
That leads up to it. So I think there's a lot of societal pressure in that respect. And I think
to look good as well, though. To look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there aren't enough people maybe making the point that, you know, to be good at this sport, you have to do it for a long time. Mm-hmm. Because you can't just get maximal strength that quickly to that kind of level. And you might be able to get a quick win now, but what do you pay for it later? And then you just end up holding you back.
I think like the biggest thing, especially in our job, like me, I'm muscular. Like I stand out, and in my job, I work with a lot of people that just want to come in and they just want to get a bit, you know, they want to tone, you know. They want to get toned. They just want to get a bit fitter. They just want to get a bit stronger. And the biggest thing that people always say to me is, I don't want to be big like you. I just want to put on a bit of muscle. And I think people forget it is hard. Yeah. It is so hard to put on muscle mass. And it takes a long time.
Especially as a woman as well.
And you need to be in a calorie surplus to build that muscle. And it takes a long time. I've been lifting for 10 years. I've been building my body for, you know, that amount of time seriously for more like 7, but it's taken a long time. And I think you can't, like, you would never expect to walk into another sport like football and be in the top
straight away
within a year or 6 months, you would expect to work for a long time. But for some reason in powerlifting, people come in and think straight away, like, out, and they just get so honed in and like, I want to be the best right now, you know, with not much time in it. But it is another sport. It's just not as popular.
You have to make sacrifices.
In the same way you do in any sport.
Is what I kind of get from your whole methodology. I guess collectively both of your methodologies. Number one, you don't compete very much.
No.
You compete infrequently.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time training, doing work that people don't. Again, it goes back to Instagram, Facebook and whatnot. People don't find it interesting to watch necessarily.
No.
You would get way more followers if you just did warrant maxes all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the only reason people ever do it, but it's also
I'm not, but everyone knows I'm not very social media big.
No.
And I don't really put myself out there. Like, I post my training, but it's not, like you
But
said,
it is.
There's
It
no
is-
agenda behind
most
it.
people
It is your
won't-
training is exactly that.
Yeah,
It's
but,
not
like, most people won't
glorified
find
in
it
any way.
interesting because it is just looks a bit boring. It's like, oh, okay, great. Once in a while I do something like awesome, like I squatted 180 for 11. Whoa, everyone's like, what? Like, but that doesn't happen very often, you know?
No, and you the fact that you put yourself through that training, that quote unquote boring training all year,
Yeah.
that's a sacrifice. You're not treating yourself to 1 rep maxes all the time.
No.
You're also not treating yourself to these diets where you've constantly got like shredded obliques or whatever.
No.
You're saying to yourself, right, I'm going to do one of these. At some point, you said to yourself, I'm going to do one of these long, let's call it off seasons, like
Yeah.
a bodybuilding off season. Like you got up to 75 kilos. It was like if anyone gets this, like a Lee Priest off season. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Lee
yeah,
Priest?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That
Used to
was
balloon
what
up like
guys used to
crazy.
do back
Yeah.
in the day. They don't do it so much anymore, but guys, bodybuilders used to get very big and like you know, a little way out of shape. But that was how it was seen.
Yeah.
That you needed to put the most muscle mass
Yeah.
on back then. But that's a sacrifice. Like they didn't like necessarily looking like that, but they did it for their sport.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah,
what I
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Just
the
the necessary
same,
evils.
It's the same thing. I think, like the further into it I've gone, the more sacrifices you tend to have to make. Like now at this point, like I'm looking at working less so I can spend more time recovering, you know, and even doing things like tracking my heart rate throughout the day while I've been working, it's been too high while I'm working.
Right.
So, and I've not been recovering. So it's like finding ways of, okay, now what can I do? So actually, like I need to just do a bit less. I need to work a little bit less, focus on making my time a little bit more efficient so I can have more downtime where my body can actually recover properly.
Just out of interest, what heart rate zones, heart rate numbers really do you shoot for?
So like my resting heart rate at home, when I'm not, like I'm just chilling at home, is like 60.
60.
But when I'm at work, it can range from like 90 to 110.
That's just walking around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just working.
So you must be like pretty stressed when you're working,
Yeah, but I don't feel stressed.
or you must
just
have
think-
those stress hormones
Yeah,
running
like, I
around your
think
body
it's
when
like
you're
I
working.
think it's
work
more
in
the
a-
attention
we
that's
work in, like,
required
a
when you're
high
coaching
energy-
people.
yeah, like you're working in a really high energy
Yeah.
place, this loud music. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm invested in like what my people are doing, like my clients, and it's just, and then like when I train, it doesn't go up much more from that.
Wow.
So like,
I've recently started to find this very interesting.
Yeah.
Because now I'm starting using a heart rate monitor for when I'm going out doing cardio and stuff.
yeah.
How do you track it? Do you use a Fitbit or do you use a chest strap as well?
Fitbit.
Okay.
Like we have a chest strap anyway at work. Like
Yeah.
we use them for like health assessments and things, but it's really just like another step up. Like I've not been recovering as well from training, so I'm like, right, what can I change? My nutrition is spot on, has been for the last couple of years. Like my sleep is very good. I sleep 9 to 10 hours every
Wow.
night, but it's a priority. If I want to be the best, this is what you have to do. Like my body needs that time to recover. Like, so I eat well, I sleep. Obviously, like I like to work hard. So I work, I do the training, right. I'm getting acupuncture, I'm having hot baths, I'm doing my mobility. So what else can I do? So
Yeah.
See, I like, that's another thing I like, being a complete athlete. I've kissed his ass in a podcast the one that's going to come out after this one, so I'm not
Yeah.
doing it today. It's very similar to the way Sam Bollins manages himself.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not kissing his ass 2 podcasts in a row.
Okay.
But that's what I like when I see someone putting all...
Who's all in.
All,
Yeah, it's
all
not
the
just
pieces of jigs.
training.
Yeah.
It's your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to be that good.
It's everything. Like, we recently just went to a seminar with Stacey Burr.
Yeah,
Do you know
she,
Stacey Burr?
she was over here,
Bama
right?
Burr.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came over to London. We went down. She did a seminar in Elevate in Richmond. It was awesome. And I learnt loads from her. But she, like, even just from the mental side of it, like, that is one thing I've been working on myself. And a lot of the things she said, it was just like everything you do. And it has to be really honed in on, is this what you want? Then you've got to go all in. There's no... It's not just, like I said, for me, the training is not difficult. That's the bit I enjoy. It's that all the other things that come with it that are more of a chore. I say a chore because you have to be thoughtful of it, and
That's not as fun, is it?
it's not fun. Having to have 2 hot baths a day and make time for it, making time for sleeping 10 hours a day when you work a 50+ hour week, when you train 3 hours a day. You've got to make time to make your food every day because it's, do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm adding this up in my head now, and your time must be really stretched.
So
Yeah.
that's,
We don't
that's
get
now
much.
why, like, I'm looking at taking back my work a bit more. You know, I'm lucky, like, we're a good team. Like, Tom is going to give me the opportunity to do a bit less so that I can put a bit more time into becoming better in the sport. But yeah, like, every bit of my day is accounted for. Like, you have to be diligent.
We talk about nutrition. How many meals are you having a day? Roughly how many calories, and what are you having to fit in?
So I'm cutting down now. So probably for the last month, I've kind of lowered them. So I eat pretty much the same thing every day. It's simple. When I was not cutting, I was on 3,000 calories a day.
Mm-hmm.
My protein is about 270. It's very high. Yeah.
It's more than me.
Yeah.
A little bit more than me, maybe.
I can't remember what my carbs and fat are. I plan it and then I just eat the same thing every day, so I don't even track it in MyFitnessPal. Now it's just planned and then I follow it.
Because you know what it is.
Because I know exactly.
Yeah.
And I
And
don't
then you
waver
adjust
from
it
that.
and you just do
Coming
that every
away
day.
for a weekend like this is when I have to be like, okay, what do I do? Because like I usually just make my food and bring it with me. But yeah, so like nutrition at the moment, every day I'm having 200 grams of beef mince with spinach and an avocado for breakfast.
It's one of my favourite meals, to be fair.
It is delicious.
The avocado like mashed into the rice.
So no rice.
Sorry.
But yeah.
But if you ever have rice with it, like
Mash it into the
just
rice.
mash it, honestly.
Okay.
It's so nice.
I'll try that. at some
See
point.
drooling there, just
And
thinking
then-
about it.
And then like, so I make my food for every 2 days. So then like at work, I'll have like a 1 scoop protein shake and 30 grams of nuts twice a day when I get hungry in between. My lunch is like 200 grams of chicken and a normal 45 grams of rice with loads of veg. So I have like peppers, onions, tomatoes, spinach, lots of leafy greens I try and stick to. And then like I have like 25 grams of sugar and EAAs and glutamine in a workout shake. And then after that I have just a sachet of oats with like 8 grams of pineapple and a protein shake. So that's my post-workout. And then for dinner I'll have just a normal size steak or 2 salmon steaks and a large potato with veg.
Okay, so your carbs tend to be distributed more towards during training and after training?
Yes.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what?
fair.
That's how I like doing it.
Yeah, it works
makes
better.
me feel so much more energized
Yeah.
before I train. Fair enough, for the rest of the day, once I've had carbs, I'm useless. But
Yeah.
that's something. I thought you were going to be super low carb with how you
No,
were going on
like,
through your
I
day,
mean,
and then it was
then
then
that's
you introduced them
something
towards
that
the end.
changes over time. The more muscle I have, the more I need carbs now.
Mhm.
Like I could not do low carb. I just couldn't. I'd feel awful.
Well, your glycogen reserves are bigger. You need
like,
those carbohydrates.
I think I got away with doing lower carb stuff when I was a lot smaller. So that was something I did when I remember, like when I was cutting down from the 75s, I managed to do like a couple of cycles of lower carbs, but there's no way now.
No.
I could do it, I'd feel awful. Like, I've done a couple of like days where it's been lower carbs and I feel it straight away.
Yeah. I mean, like you said about you before, though, you're a very muscular driven kind of lifter. So your volume tends to be higher. So you're going to deplete more glycogen. Whereas if you're a more neurally driven lifter and you were doing lots of heavier, lower volume work, then that would be less important for you. But you got to tailor it to what you do, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then like supplementation, that's something that is really important too. Like every day I have omega oil, creatine, tyrosine. That's something that helps with like mental ability,
Dopamine and production.
Yeah. So there's important things in that too. Like there's loads of little things you could be doing that people probably don't even really think about.
Like you're saying, you two have probably got a good idea of what actually works supplement-wise, because you'll look at the studies.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of being able to data analyze like you two can. You can look at the studies and say, right, okay.
Well, understand how it's working, what it's doing,
when to take
it.
I do think the biggest trick that people miss with supplementation, though, is the mental aspect of it. So, like saying about Naomi, like her taking tyrosine is to up her dopamine levels, because when your dopamine is higher, you're more energetic and you're more enthused. Whereas she naturally has quite low dopamine, quite high serotonin, just because of her nature. So something like that can make her dopamine higher when she goes to train, means that her energy level's better, her attention to detail is better, and all that kind of thing. Whereas she's someone who doesn't respond well to, say, stimulants like caffeine. Mm-hmm. So she wouldn't get much benefit from that. She gets major crashes from that.
When you say this stuff, did you find this out through, what's the test? Is it called the Braverman test?
Braverman test,
Braverman test, yeah.
That's it.
So did you find that out through there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found it so interesting. When I did that, I was like, wow, this is...
Yeah. So you look at your brain chemistry, and it tells you a lot about what you should be supplementing with, and also how you should be training.
Yeah.
To a large degree. So like me and her are literally polar opposites.
Yeah.
Like all of my training is cluster training at the moment.
It's all really heavy.
I haven't done a rep at less than 90% for about 8 weeks, and I grow on that.
So
and
are you high in dopamine? Low in serotonin?
Yes, and very neurally driven.
Right.
So I basically run on adrenaline.
Okay.
Literally constantly, which is made from dopamine. So high dopamine means you have a lot of fuel for adrenaline, but also means if I were to drag it down too much, I would be done for, because I've lost the fuel that I run off.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I suppose there's like two ends to the spectrum, and we basically sit at the opposite side.
Yeah, so she's then the polar opposite in that she's not adrenaline driven at all. Okay, like I said, she's very muscular driven and much lower in dopamine than I am, but higher in serotonin. So she tends to be a bit more finely balanced, if you like, with regards to her energy systems, whereas I'm literally like fast twitch completely.
Yeah, I think when I did it, I was higher in serotonin.
Yep.
Lower in dopamine. Not really low in dopamine though. Kind of like medium in dopamine.
Mm.
Go through them. I know there's GABA. I'm trying to remember which one. There's GABA, serotonin, dopamine, and there are another one or two.
I think off the top of my head now, to be honest. I mean, you got acetylcholine.
Which is that was what I was dominant in.
Which is a little bit different, but that mainly tells you how much volume you can handle and how good you are at multitasking. So yeah, most bodybuilders or people who respond well to bodybuilding training tend to have very high acetylcholine.
Right.
That's why we like training the same way.
Also, you see it generally really high in people who like things like CrossFit. Because, I know, sorry, dirty word, but it tends to make you very good at switching between tasks and multitasking. So, again, to use me as an example, if you gave me a superset, done. I can't switch between 2 lifts. I'm like all or nothing on one lift. I can't do 2 things at once, anyway. Whereas someone who's generally high in acetylcholine can switch between tasks quite easily. So I can give her like circuit workouts with
I do like 5 things at once.
Yeah, and she can just go boom, 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 boom.
Would that mean work-wise, we could concentrate better or less well? Because I don't concentrate very well. But
No,
I don't
it's
know if
more.
that's
It's
just
again,
discipline.
it's more your ability to switch between
Yeah.
tasks and multitask, not necessarily concentrate for longer.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. I was thinking, well, yeah, I switch between tasks, but not on purpose.
No, yeah, that's fair.
Just your mind wanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and then the other cool effect that it has is that it tends to sensitize your stretch reflex.
Right. So you're very good at balancing out the whole.
So if you're high in acetylcholine, you have a very
Good.
sensitive stretch reflex when you can
Yeah.
get more out of it.
So you would be better in theory at speed stuff, maybe.
Yeah,
Rate of force development would be better?
rate of force development and just general stretch reflex, because it desensitizes your Golgi tendon organs to a degree.
So
There's a lot you can tell from taking these. But again, this is the bit people are missing, in my opinion, is that we're all really worried about what we're digesting and eating and what the muscles are doing, but you're not worried about the big mushy thing controls it all. And the
Yeah,
thing that
and like
also
that-
controls your motivation.
But yeah, that massively changes what people should be doing. You know, like, you can give out a program and it will generally work for most people, but when it comes down to like more specifics, everyone's so different. So everyone needs really different styles of training. Like,
Yeah.
it's not massive, but like you can see like we're quite different. If I did Tom's program, I'd probably be dead in a week.
Yeah, literally.
Like, I would probably be like crippled at home and be just, I just wouldn't be able to handle it.
it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think realistically, individualized programming is more important psychologically and in terms of brain chemistry than it is physiologically,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah, I'd go along with that as well. I don't know whether it's just from an emotional perspective of
Yeah.
what I would prefer, or whether I actually understand what you mean in terms of
Yeah.
psychologically.
But I mean, you take that thought, then you say, right, so I can give you a training program that ticks all the boxes it needs to, but it runs in line with your preferences, psychologically,
That's
emotionally.
what you want, right?
Yeah.
Right? And then I can give you another training program, which names some training types that you hate
That I hate.
or dislike.
Within powerlifting.
Or within any training, doesn't matter. Not running, but within lifting.
Oh, Jesus.
I actually just thought running
I
straight
know,
away.
everyone does. It's okay.
You know what you've that I hate. Oh man, you've really put me
It's
on the
easier
spot.
to ask what you like, because I was just
Yeah.
thinking of things
Okay,
that
that's
I
fine.
liked.
So,
I
what
like-
type of training do you like?
I like for general stuff like off season. I like volume. I honestly like the type of training that I was doing, where it's lots of repeated.
Yep.
In fact, 5x5.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Mhm.
Because
it's that's almost like what you said about Naomi as she's got more advanced. I hate
Yep.
it because it makes me feel I can't do another exercise after it. I
Yep.
am
Yeah.
fucked.
Yep.
okay.
So let's say I can give you a kind of more generic bodybuilding / powerlifting plan. Obviously, a decent amount of pump work in there that you do, and stuff that is in like the 80 to 85% range. That which is probably stuff that you get on with, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe even lower.
Yep.
Like if I do 5x5 at a high percentage, I don't know whether everyone would find it.
Yep.
But if it's like RP9 on every set,
Yep.
that fucks me up, especially on squat and deadlift.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Okay. And then what if so we have that, and you have like a squat day, a bench day, whatever it might be. And then instead of that, I could give you the same, another program that still ticks all the boxes, but that's like Bulgarian style. So you're hitting something upwards of 95% every day.
I just get the feeling that I wouldn't do well with it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
But
I really do. I don't think I'd do well.
so straight away there, you've seen that you probably don't fancy that.
Mm-hmm.
So which training, regardless of, you want to be world number one, and you're completely motivated to do that, and you'll do what it takes. But which one are you going to be more compliant with still?
The volume one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
they
low
all
percentage
they all
one.
tick all the boxes, but which one is going to resonate with you more?
And you'll work harder
Yeah.
for.
Which means you're going to be more compliant,
Mhm.
more committed, and also you're subconsciously going to work harder at something you enjoy. And that's the real trick. That's not a secret set and rep scheme, but how can you tailor a program? Because all programs work to a degree, let's be honest. Like, training programming itself isn't that complicated if you're patient enough. it's fitting it to the person's psychology. Realistically, that means they're going to buy into it, is the actual trick, in my opinion.
Would you say that's anything to do with the fact that what I notice is that I can't lift anywhere? I always lift way more at comp.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you two are reasonably similar, you don't really use adrenaline to lift a lot. So you're not going to really be depleting dopamine in your regular day-to-day training. You're not training on the wire. You're not training really heavy loads. And you're probably not doing really complex movements all the time. So then you take someone that normally does not use adrenaline because it's a resource that you find very taxing. And because you don't have a lot of dopamine, you can't make a lot of it.
And you put them in...
You put them in a comp and you say, right, for one day,
yeah,
here's all the adrenaline you want for one day. And all of a sudden you've gone from never using this rocket fuel to using it, which is great. But you probably feel like you've been hit by a train the next day.
Yeah.
And you probably feel mentally like you've lost like 30 of your IQ points.
Yes.
For several
every
days.
IQ point I had.
Yeah. So that's just your dopamine level crashing. So that's the thing that you never normally use in your training, which is right because that's what you respond well to.
Yeah.
All of a sudden that's you using it but then depleting it, for example. But that's with, like in your example, supplementing with tyrosine and getting that dopamine level higher might not be that useful every day, depending on what type of training you're doing, but around a comp or around a peak, when you are going to start psyching yourself up, listening to your music, whatever it might be, that's going to help you recover quicker between your heavier lifts.
So that's something else you mentioned, the tyrosine, which I find interesting because recently tried, I put it on British Strength Instagram, supplement by Strom, which has tyrosine in it.
Yeah.
Stimumax, both versions have the tyrosine in. And I felt, it has caffeine in too, but doesn't have that much. So you can tell what 250 milligrams of caffeine feels like.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what that feels like. But I was thinking, it has a couple of different things, alpha GPC, tyrosine. But I'm thinking, the tyrosine...
Alpha GPC works well as well as a nootropic.
Yeah, I've taken that separately in the past, and I quite like that. But I was thinking, maybe the tyrosine is what makes it feel so different to just taking caffeine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'd describe it as an effect of just, it's not a stimulant, so it doesn't feel like that, but you're just a little bit more aware and a little bit more awake at a low level, but constantly. So when you use it well.
For acetylcholine dominant person, like Naomi, like myself, maybe forego the caffeine sometimes, a coffee, and like in your morning thing, take some tyrosine
So
instead.
for people who are naturally low in dopamine, or which are generally going to be people that are more drawn to bodybuilding style training and that kind of thing, stimulants, because you have little dopamine, caffeine works, goes in your system, depletes dopamine to create adrenaline, great, unless you don't have very much of it and you're not very good at using it. So for someone like you, for you two, you're going to crash that pretty quick. And you're not going to be great at synthesizing it again either. So instead, if you use something like tyrosine or L-theanine, which has a similar effect in terms of how it feels, but doesn't deplete dopamine, would be better for you.
Is it Nacal tyrosine, which is the best form?
Which no, just L-tyrosine.
Yeah, just L-tyrosine.
Just normal L-tyrosine.
Yeah, the whole NAC thing's just completely overdone.
Okay, right.
Completely overdone.
Well, it doesn't do anything.
No. Also, it tastes
to
disgusting.
put it brutally.
Right. Okay. I've never tried.
Or at least
tyrosine,
there's no evidence yet that it absorbs better than any other form.
Right. So okay. Right. I'll look at maybe switching my coffee. Or, my.
Try it out. See what you think.
Try L-theanine as well.
L-theanine.
L-theanine's worth trying to. Just try like 200 milligrams in a serving first thing in the morning, or like 30 minutes before you train.
Okay.
It's not going to be like bang, like a pre-workout with loads of caffeine in it, but it feels stimulant-like to a low level, but isn't.
Because see, I like pre-workouts, but sparingly.
Yeah.
So I would use a Stimumax, but I wouldn't use it like every workout.
Yeah.
Like I don't imagine many people use pre-workouts for every workout. Maybe in this day and age where the kids are all
they're on all the time
themselves with fucking No, that's super interesting. Super interesting to have that conversation. Someone who's gone a lot deeper into it is a Poliquin Thibodeau style
it is,
thing,
yeah,
isn't
absolutely,
it? Who's
absolutely
gone deeper into that because I wondered about all this stuff when I did the Braverman test just out of curiosity. But to actually to hear more about. It's cool, and I'm looking forward to experimenting. So Naomi, you mentioned with your training,
Yeah.
you like to hit, say, a number one week and then make it better the week after.
Yeah.
Been following your training recently. I saw like a 215 triple squats. The first one, like I'm really, really, really not trying to be an arsehole here, but it looked high. And then the second one did look a bit, the second triple you did look a bit deep, looked a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Oh, you want the first triple, so I would doing the week before.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think you squatted 215 2 weeks in a row.
Yes,
now,
that's right, yeah.
And
The first time I did it was not great.
Okay. Do you
Like, that's why.
But that's why it was repeated.
Okay, right. Is when you maybe have like sets like that, when they're a little bit high in reps and stuff, because I have noticed, like, since compared to what you used to do, they are a little bit higher at the minute.
Yeah.
And I know it's like a big controversy in powerlifting at the minute. If you say that to anyone, like, things can get like, you know, the people take it so badly. But I know that you know, you've got thick skin and you're an intelligent person, so you can probably you can talk about it more.
Yeah, of course.
Civilly. Is there a reason? Like, do you ever just let yourself squat a little bit high in training, or is the goal to be at depth all the time in reps?
No, I mean,
Because
obviously,
I see
like,
it not just with you. I see it with a lot of lifters now in the UK.
yeah.
Like, repeatedly kind of squatting high in training. It just makes me wonder if is there a theory behind it, like, or are people
No, like for me, it's not like an intention to squat higher.
okay?
I think it's just that going from like a raw to a wrap squat is like a transition for me that I'm just trying to get
Right.
used to. So obviously, like, I repeated that weight because the first time I did it was like, I watched it back and I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't great.
Okay.
But, you know,
And
yeah,
I
like,
do think recently switching wraps has changed that a little bit as well. So
yeah.
you got stiffer wraps the last couple of weeks as well,
And
so that
managing to
changes the
sit-
feel.
Yeah,
When you're trying to
managing
feel
sit a
out
bit
depth,
lower
it's going to
into
feel
them.
different.
And it's something that, yeah, like, I'm just trying to improve. I think it's just a confidence thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard
when it gets
to,
heavy.
for me, like,
It is a
I'm
confidence
totally
thing.
used to like the way a raw squat feels, and I know when I'm hitting depth, and
Mhm.
but when I put a wrap on, I'm like, well, I don't know where I'm at. Like, I think I'm going lower than I am, but that's why I video the heavier stuff, so I can watch it back and see. And I'll always post it, because for me, like, Instagram is my training log. So once it's on there, it's gone off my phone. I will go back through my Instagram to look at what I did before and be like, okay, yeah. And when I squatted that the first time in the summer, it was so bad. Like, I looked back at the video the other day and I was like, whoa, that was bad depth. It was maybe parallel.
So it can be a form of progression as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like, it's not,
Range of motion.
I
Yep.
would say not an intention to squat high at all. I don't think that would benefit anyone, really.
No, but that's why you need to practice in reps.
But it's just a different, like, it's different for me, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I've never really had an issue with depth raw. I've never failed a squat for depth.
It's mainly the reps that
It's
have
reps.
now.
It's just different, and it's
Yeah.
just going to take some getting used to. I know people have, like, a thing about, like, depth in certain federations and stuff, and, you know, I haven't exactly ventured into all federations, but, like, I've never really had issues with my depth before.
No, I wouldn't say so.
I've seen most of your comp squats. I think
Yeah.
most of the comp squats, and they've all looked fine.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the WPC Worlds one, the body power one, where you squatted 185. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
You know.
So, like, that is still the same way I squat. Like, I haven't changed it. I still, even when it's heavy, I'm squatting that low. But it's literally been, like, for me, going from raw to wrap squat, it changes the way it feels. And I am a very, like, I feel my lifts. I want to feel my muscles working. Everything is
same.
all, yeah, right?
That's how cool
So,
maybe
like, that's why I love
There you
bodybuilding,
go.
because I love feeling what I can do. So I get really frustrated when I do something and I'm like, couldn't feel that. That was like, I'm frustrated, like, I can't feel what I'm doing, so it's just, I don't feel like I'm doing it correctly. So going into a wrap squat's been awful, because it's changed the way it feels. So it's just getting used to it. So it's actually just like being a bit more confident and really sitting into it a little bit more, and just trying to push through that feeling of the wrap, I suppose. But watch the space; it'll get better, I think.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
that's why, for example, Naomi has a technique day at the beginning of the week at the moment,
so I'm doing
where she
lighter.
does sets of 5 in wraps that are meant to be like
I just
RP 8.
I've just not really actually
Just for
posted any of those.
example.
I've not videoed them because I do most of those on my own.
So you are, regardless of, say, for example, if the next session, the heavier one, goes a little bit askew, where you just don't have the confidence.
Yeah, but like my
You
lighter
misjudge
ones,
it.
I've
The
been like,
lighter ones,
I've
you
almost
train
been
in
like
that range
going,
anyway.
I've almost
Yes.
been like going a bit too low in my lighter ones sometimes.
Yeah, you have.
So I'm trying to find like a balance between, I suppose. Yeah.
And so, okay, so now we've approached that topic, and we know that you can be introspective and you talk about it with each other.
Yeah.
And that you kind of have, you're giving feedback. Have you kind of seen the epidemic in the UK though, of people like just going high over and over again, and you can't kind of figure it out? Like so moving away from, do you ever notice that on Instagram? Do you ever think that like people who used to hit depth all the time seem to have got stronger, but they're actually not, because they're just squatting higher?
You mean in competition or in training?
No, in training. Sometimes
Yeah.
in competition, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of the time you can't really risk it.
Yeah. No.
I mean, that does happen, but I mean, that probably feeds back to what we said earlier about just social pressures, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Like,
yeah.
everyone just wants a 5 kilo PB for their Instagram, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I misgrooved it a bit, so it was half an inch high, but yeah, it's a PB. Get me some likes, but, realistically, you're changing the lift. But maybe that's just it. Maybe people are just, again, maybe thinking too short term about what
Yeah.
can I do to get 10 kilos on the bar now. Oh, it's okay if that one was a little bit higher, and then the next week's a tad higher. Maybe just standards aren't quite good enough personally for them.
Yeah. And it's kind of I'll get it on the day, I'll hit that
Yeah,
on the day
exactly.
type thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what you're always going to do the thing that you're used to. So
Yeah,
like
you
you
revert
need to
back.
nail it in the gym.
Yeah.
If you
Again,
want to hit it on platform.
Not to just blaspheme social media constantly, but I don't doubt there's probably an element of, oh, well, I'm a 75 kilo female and X, Y, and Z are all 75 kilo females, and they've posted this wrap squat 2 weeks ago. I want to do that weight, and it's okay if it's wherever it lands,
And then what can be bad about that is all the positive comments that come from a lift, which definitely shouldn't pass.
Mm.
Yeah.
People being too
Well, I think it's
supportive.
because
of
Yeah,
it.
that's
I think it's
fair.
because people get worried that they're gonna. Like, I think I wouldn't ever write anything negative on someone's post because there's no need for that.
No. And it
But
would
it's
never
not
get taken well.
It's not my.
No.
It's not my business. If it was one of my lifters, I'd tell them
Yeah.
exactly that was rubbish.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that was
But
terrible.
I suppose at that point, that is when you turn around and say, well, where's your coach or where are your lifting partners?
like, why are they not telling you?
Yeah, they should be.
Like,
It's only. I think it's no one else's business really to say it, and so I don't like it when people are like, that was high, like.
Yeah. Like,
But then the backlash that comes from that, like, why are you not congratulating this person doing this amazing weight? Like, it's just, like.
yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Like,
it is
it's
very much
difficult.
Neither
so.
would I. I wouldn't go on some. Even my friends, like, if it was one of my close friends. To be fair, if it was one of my close friends,
If it was one of your
we'd-
close
we'd
friends,
rinse each other in the
Yeah.
group
You would
chat.
say,
Yeah,
like,
you would,
you'd
yeah,
message them and
absolutely.
be
But
like,
you do that privately,
"Dude,
right?
that
You
was
wouldn't do that in
high.
the public domain
That was high.
for
Do it
everyone
again
else to
better."
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would definitely, I just wouldn't do it to a randomer. Like, someone who was
No.
just an acquaintance, I wouldn't do it. I would just not say anything. But at the same time, I wouldn't be like, wow, you're so amazing, kind of. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
I think that, yeah.
I totally get the negative anyway, because I get a lot, like, I think, because like I put myself out there, maybe not as much as other people, but I'm different, so you get a lot of negative. I just delete them.
Do you
I
get
delete
negative
them,
comments
yeah,
on your
all
social
the time.
media?
Yeah, she does.
I
Really?
just delete them because I don't care. Like, I'm also not looking for people to praise me. I'm just me. I'm happy with what I'm doing. That's all that matters to me. Obviously, it's upsetting. It used to really bother me. But now I just don't care. Like, I just delete it.
Is it from people who you know who they are, or just randomers?
Sometimes.
And you don't have loads of followers on social media,
No,
do you? Because I
no.
remember checking this when I put you in the
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah.
1,000 and
Not even
500?
1,000.
No.
I think
Really?
I've got like 700 and something
is that
followers.
it?
Yeah.
What's your Instagram? It's Naomi.
Naomi
A.
A.
Sheppard.
Maybe that's my
Go
problem.
and follow Naomi A. Sheppard. She deserves more followers. But don't be a dick and post negative stuff.
Look, like, I'm all for, like, if I do something wrong, I'm not going to expect people to be like, this is amazing. Like, but the people that are close to me will tell me anyway that's not good enough.
Yeah. Well, what you don't see on the Instagram video after her squatting 215 for 3 high, whatever you want to say, is the video ends and then we watch it back and we go, well, you're doing that weight next week, so that was shit.
Yeah. Or like the people I'm training
You
with,
know, like
that you should have done that lower. Like, you usually squat lower.
Yeah.
Like,
You have your own
But I'm
personal
not-
standards then,
I'm also
which
not,
you don't
like, for
see
me,
on there.
that's my training log. I'm going to post exactly what I'm doing. When I
Yeah.
make mistakes, they're going to be on there. I'm not going to post just my highlight reel. Like, it's a bit of everything.
Yeah, it's definitely my opinion, just to make it clear, that you shouldn't not post it.
Yeah.
You should definitely post
But
it.
I
like,
wouldn't
if
post it and be like, yes,
Unofficial world record triple.
do it on the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, because it's reflective of training. Like, those two squats that we mentioned, the triple and then the triple that was much better, it's your training log and it's reflective of how you progress.
But
That
then
kind of thing.
I also did that same lift for a triple in the summer before the Irish Pro, and that was even worse.
Right.
So it's good to be able to look back at that and be like, oh, that was bad.
And that was you like peaked as well.
Literally I was like, but I did some good ones, some bad ones. But for me, like, squatting high has only been an issue with wraps because I just can't feel it. So it's literally just going to be getting used to it. And I've only just started using them again. So yeah, like, it's just going to take some time. But yes, like, I won't allow myself now to go up in weight until it's better.
That's,
you know?
along with all the other commendable things that you've
Yeah.
said in this interview, I think that's another commendable thing. And I think it doesn't really just apply to you. That could be seen as advice, really, for anyone listening to this. You know, you're going to have things in training which aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Watch them, evaluate them.
But you're
How
going to
can
get a
you
lot
improve?
more from making 5 to 10 kilos less better
Yeah.
than doing that bit more and it being not passable.
Yeah.
Your training and your long-term achievement is going to be much better from doing something with better technique, you know, making it awesome, than putting on a bit more weight and it not being so
Yeah.
great.
So you repeat the same weight. You don't then go, oh, I'll add 10 kilos
Yeah, like,
next
I did
week.
that.
Mm.
Okay, I'll do
Yeah.
more. Like, do it better. Be proud of it yourself and know that you're, like, that's passable, rather than putting more weight on the bar. Like, I always say that to our lifters. Like, you can't, like, if we're like when we've been prepping them for this competition, I've been like helping them out in the gym, like going through sessions. Like, you're not going up in weight until that you can do that again, and you've got to make it.
Yeah.
Fast,
I think people
good.
do lose, you know, they lose the mindset in that it's not always about putting more on, it's how well you lift your
Yeah.
heavier loads.
Or
You
like,
know, if you're progressively lifting 180 better and better, you are stronger
yes,
anyway, but you're also going to be a better lifter.
but it's just not as eye-catching.
It's not as sexy, is it?
It's not as appealing to other people.
Because I think people forget it's not always the strongest person that wins, it's the best lifter that wins.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to learn to apply your raw ability to the skills that we have.
Yeah.
So why is the quality of your lift not an accurate measure for you?
Yeah. I think I remember Chris Duffin saying something
Yeah.
similar ages ago, and they were using
He's awesome.
They were using a Tendo unit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like, just because it's the same weight doesn't mean it's just the same weight.
Weight, yeah.
You measure the
Did
speed.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
You
it
got
move
stronger.
faster? Did it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did it hit depth? Did
Yeah.
it? You know, how smooth was it? Did you hit a sticking point?
And you might not even have to move beyond that point until you compete.
No, exactly.
And that could be your training, just repeating that weight.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it's of a certain threshold that's high enough.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there are loads of different ways to do it, and I think that's what we're getting from your training.
Yeah, yeah.
So, kind of before we start to wrap things up, I want to talk about you two in terms of how being two people involved in the sport in a relationship, like how it works. Like, how would you?
I carry the trophies. She does the lifting.
No, like it's both a big part of our lives. I mean, I think that just says a lot about us as a couple in general. Like, we work together, we share our hobbies together, we both really, we run our powerlifting team together, we spend all our free time together. We are just a good team, but we also, like, I think we just have a good balance. Like, that sounds wrong, actually, saying that we like spending all our time together and we have a good balance. We just make sure it works for us. And I think every couple's different.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of people that don't also have success with coaching and being someone's partner at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, I can understand.
I think
how
that
it would not work in certain
Yeah,
cases.
I think it takes a certain approach and patience to develop that, and
Yeah.
a certain maybe type of relationship for that to happen.
mean,
but
yeah.
again, just like any other aspect of a relationship, it's something that you work on actively.
Yeah.
How
you
do
know,
you switch between the two? Like,
with much difficulty, even now, because I'm quite brazen and short with my words, is probably fair to say,
Yeah.
with most of our other lifters. But again, that's where knowing your athlete's psychology, if you like, comes into it. So like for Naomi, for example, if we're at a comp and she asks me, what should I do this? And I hesitate for even a nanosecond, she won't get it.
Right.
Or she won't want to lift it. Because she reflects me when it comes to what she should lift. So if I even hesitate for a second or look even slightly doubtful, no, it's not going to happen. She doesn't want to do it. So it's important to know even more so what her psychology is like with how she needs coaching in that respect.
I suppose
And being
with
sensitive to that.
I think it just takes a lot of trust.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the word that makes more sense. Like, I completely trust Tom in every facet of my life. But you have to work on that.
And I suppose the advantages in terms of coaching and being in a relationship is that you know everything
Yeah.
about how her day is going. At
Yeah,
that point.
absolutely.
So I guess
It's almost better.
personalisation can become just so.
And I can't do
personalised.
anything
Yes,
wrong
absolutely.
because he's always there.
Do you say, for example, if nutritionally maybe, I don't know, do you have to prompt her nutritionally, or is nutrition
Sometimes.
something that you can
I
just
do.
No, like,
do
I
on your
think
own?
for me, like, nutrition's always been my biggest challenge. It's been really good last couple of years, but like, if I even waver a little bit, like, that can sort of spiral for me.
Yeah.
And I don't like being told, but I need it. Like,
Right,
if he
yeah.
says like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that, I'm like, no one likes to be told that.
But again,
I'm like, I'm gonna do it because I've chosen to do that. But like, it's because and I know myself, and then I'm just like, okay, yeah, like, it'll just end up becoming something bigger. And like,
yeah, but that's going back to like the psychology side of it. People who are wired like Naomi, and maybe yourself then to the same degree, tend to be like sugar bugs. They love sugar and get on well with high carb diets.
Yeah.
But for example, when you know that, and you know that sugar for her is going to be a really kind of sensitive, or rather really appealing thing for her, then you know that if one to step in and say, that's not something that is going to end well, should we say, or the difference between her just going off plan by 5%, if that makes sense.
yeah, I'm definitely someone, I just have to go 100%.
Yeah. So if like she starts snacking on sugary things because she's super sensitive to sugar in terms of brain chemistry and pleasure receptors for it, that's the last thing that she should be snacking on. Or if she needed a refeed, something that's sugary should be the last thing that she should refeed on, because
Okay.
it will make her want to binge on it. So again, you start understanding these things and it makes it easier to work with, and
Yeah.
easier to know when something maybe needs to be said or something doesn't
I
need to
think
be said.
You just have to be adaptable, right?
Yeah.
Like, I used to help Tom a lot with his training, but now he goes somewhere else because like, he just wasn't really listening to me. So like, he didn't
Well,
follow.
I'm really stubborn.
No, but like, he wouldn't
It's that
follow
simple.
what I gave him. So it's like, well, there's no point, just go somewhere else if you're not going to follow it, like, but you have to just be adaptable. Like, at some point it might not work, but then we just change our approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think
right now it
it's
works
rare,
really
though.
well.
It's rare though for someone in your own family, or at least in my experience, to actually you could be an expert in a field.
Yeah.
Normally, and within a family.
Yeah, they wouldn't
and
listen to you,
your mum
right?
or your dad or your wife just wouldn't listen. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, but John down at the shop said. And it's like,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
I've been saying that to you every day.
No,
Paul.
that's so true. And outside of us, in our immediate family, we get that all the time as well.
Yeah.
So we're not different in that aspect.
Yeah, I think, but the way you two are doing it, like the whole thing, it seems almost like it's more advantageous.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
well, if you can
Yeah.
make it
build
work,
off
why
each
wouldn't it
other.
be?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I might see if my coach, if I can persuade him to turn gay, I'll
Yeah.
turn gay,
Yeah.
and we can start a relationship.
just for your
Just
lifting
for-
career,
just-
obviously.
just
Yeah. No, it wasn't. That thought wasn't there beforehand. Obviously.
He's an attractive guy, to be fair. I'd have to clear it with the missus. To be fair, I think she'd just laugh. I think she'd find it quite.
Until he moves in, and then she'd stop laughing.
Watch this space. Right, okay. So last thing before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future beyond Kern. So, are there any plans to do any other comps in 2020, or even 2021? Do you plan that far ahead?
No,
or?
like I want to do more this year. So at the moment, I'm planning on doing the Irish Pro
Oh, okay.
again, and then possibly the GPC Pro. I'm not really sure what's happening with that. I just know that
I mean, it's gonna go on. Are they not on the same weekend though?
no, they're a
No,
month
they're
apart.
not. No.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
I'm actually planning on doing both.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, which is unusual for me to do two that close together. But
Would you just go for like a? Would you peak for the latter? For the Irish Pro.
Yeah, it'd be
and
like
then
a soft.
Basically-
peak.
for the GPC Pro.
I'll peak, deload, peak, which is going to be
Mm.
tough for me, I think, especially. But it's not set in stone, but that's kind of my plan for now, I suppose. And then from that point onwards, I don't know really. I think, yeah, at the moment I'm just really like honed in on the Kern, see what happens
Of
with
course,
that.
yeah.
I did get invited to a competition in September called the
Showdown
in New York, and that's without wraps. That is a sleeved
Right.
competition. It's a
Mm.
sleeved pro, which is
That
unusual.
sounds interesting.
So actually, like since I got invited to that, I've been like deliberating whether to just do that one and the Kern.
Imagine like that sounds like such a hard decision for someone who loves sleeves, loves raw lifting.
Yeah,
Your head must be like battered with
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think, and there's a lot of amazing lifters going to that competition. But again, it's going to come. It's like the travel, the money. I need to decide, obviously soon, because competitions will start filling up, and you want to put your place in, and yeah. So I don't know. Not decided yet. But yeah, definitely the Kern. That's booked, sorted. Training is going well for it. But then after that, it's just I've got to make a decision about what I'm going to do. But definitely at least one later in the year.
Yeah, it'll be cool to watch
It's
the
nice
live
to have
feed of the
it's nice to have a
Kern.
choice, actually.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like the Irish Pro basically opened many doors for me this year.
You start
Yeah.
getting more invites, right?
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Like I've never really pushed my social media, so I know I'm good. I've gotten to a good stage in the UK, but the world is very big. There's a lot of very good lifters out there, and I think the only way to get better is by going out of your comfort zone and putting yourself with the
Yeah.
best people. And so going to somewhere like the Kern, going from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a big pond, that's how you grow and that's how you get better. So I want to go and be there with like some of the biggest lifters in the world, be around that, try and learn from them, experience competitions like that, because they're just completely different. And you know, the Irish Pro was like my first taste of that, So it's almost like looking of ways of trying to make myself better. So just making the right decisions based on that.
Yeah. I love that mindset, and just the fact that it's quite, in a way, it's kind of quite fresh for you. This whole pro show thing. You've not
It's
been doing
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
You've done one.
I've done one. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be. I'm really looking forward to seeing how.
But just having the opportunity to even just choose which one I'm going to do is amazing.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. So I'm excited. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to, like, I think everything's like, every year it kind of hones in a little bit more, and you kind of, everything gets better and better and better. And like mentally, I'm in the strongest place now probably than I've ever been in terms of the way I look at it. And I think that's going to be like the biggest game changer for me this year.
Absolutely. The body follows the mind, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's like a massive part of it. And that's, I think that's going to be, So I'm really going to push it now. Like, I feel like I've got to a good point, but there's so much more I can do. There's so much more I can achieve. And I think this, like, the next couple of years are going to be like big years for me.
You've honestly, again, not just blowing smoke because we're all here, but one of the reasons I wanted to podcast with you was because you're one of my, can't really think of anyone else, probably the lifter who I look to in the UK, on the women's side of thing, probably my favourite one in terms of, like,
Thank you.
now I'm starting to realise how much potential you have as well.
Yeah.
Hence why I approached you for the magazine so
Yeah.
long ago.
No, I really
And
appreciate it.
It's going to be exciting to see how you progress, you know what I mean? Just following you and seeing, just how you move on. And what things you do with training, so interesting too. The way you two run things that way.
Yeah.
It puts a nice fresh spin on things.
Yeah.
Compared to just what's a norm in powerlifting these days. So I've really enjoyed this chat. I've enjoyed.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us.
I've enjoyed picking your brains and learning quite a lot from you. So yeah, this has been great, and I imagine everyone else will think so too.
Well, I hope so.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And well, hopefully we get to chat another time.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I'd just like to say, if you would like to support the generation of future episodes of this podcast, head over to BritishStrengthMagazine.com, subscribe to British Strength Magazine. We have the brightest minds in UK strength sports writing for the magazine, and interviews with the UK's strongest athletes. New issue featuring Jimbo Cooper on the cover came out a little bit yesterday when this is uploaded. So go and check that out. Subscribe. Thank you both.
Thank you.